What is going on, Locks Mob, and welcome back to the Locks DFS NHL Breakdown. I'm your host, Narang, and I'll be breaking down this 11-game main slate that we have on tap for Saturday, February 2nd on DraftKings, FanDuel, and Prize Picks. We're coming off an interesting Friday slate. Just to recap, FanDuel didn't go so hot for us. It started off really well with Gensel and Crosby combining for a goal, but once again, daily fantasy goalie struck us again. I mean, on FanDuel yesterday, you sort of had to play Carter Hutton. He was the biggest favorite, or not, he wasn't the biggest favorite, but he was the biggest favorite in relation to his price. He was $7,300, the second cheapest goalie behind Maxime Lagacé. So you kind of had to play the big favorite there, the home favorite. But as we know, Chicago shelled Buffalo. So daily fantasy goalie hurt yesterday, but DraftKings did really well. Members still cashed out on DraftKings. Got a lot of screenshots, got a lot of messages about people winning. So the cheat sheet was strong. The video was good. And let's try and do that again for today. So it's a massive 11-game slate. So there's no way I'm going to be able to get to everything or every game or even anything. But what I am going to do is what I usually do. I'm going to try and break down a few of my favorite plays at each price point, at each position, just to give you guys sort of like a rough estimate of where I'm looking, where I'm headed, and a few of the teams that I'm kind of interested in. So to start it off, we'll just start at center as always. And you see the day-to-day mark by Nathan MacKinnon's name. He will play. I believe so, at least. I mean, double check it close to the time, but he just sat out an all-star competition. I think he sat out the game, had a little foot injury, but then he had 3 days off, so I think he'll be all right. I think he'll be back in the lineup. But the bigger news here with Colorado 1 is the fact that Colorado 1 is a whole different lineup now. McKinnon is on that first line now with Colin Wilson and Alexander Kerfoot. They dropped Landeskog and Rantanen down to the Soderberg second line. I'm actually not sure why. I think this is the first game they did this. I don't remember it being like this before All-Star break. And I don't know if this is just something that they're trying out, but in my personal opinion, I don't think it'll last. They tried to move Landeskog off the first line earlier, try and give more depth to the team in general, but it just didn't work. I think Colorado kind of functions on having a dominant first line and then competent second and third lines with Soderberg and Comfort down there, but I think that first line really has to be dominant. But regardless, I still think McKinnon is by far and away my favorite top center play of the day. As we all know, Nathan MacKinnon at home gives you the highest floor and upside of any player. Averaging 5.8 fantasy points per game at home, skating almost 22 minutes a game. It's as safe as it gets. He's got a great matchup versus a Vancouver team that's in the bottom 10 in expected goals against per 60, and they're traveling to Colorado to play at altitude. So I think McKinnon smashes. He's kind of, I think you can kind of one-off McKinnon though now. Now I don't think you have to feel obligated to stack him with Landeskog or Rantanen. Just know that if they do give up a goal or something, we could see that typical Colorado one line be thrown together really quick. But for now, I think McKinnon makes a great one-off. If you want to pair him, maybe pair him with Barry, or pair him with some of his cheap line mates if you want to, because they are most definitely in play. Scrolling down a little bit farther, this 6K range of center for the San Jose Sharks is pretty interesting to me. I think you can go with either one of Couture or Hertl. I think I slightly prefer the Couture line just because I like Pavelski and Meyer a lot. But that Hertl line is it has been the line that they've been trying to establish as their sort of their first line, the Hertl Kane line. Skating just as many minutes as the prototypical first line. So I think you can go with either side of this. But for me, I'll go ahead and side with Couture. And I like the fact that he's $300 cheaper as well. And then the last center I wanted to talk about is on Minnesota. So Minnesota is in one of the best matchups of the day versus a Chicago team that's on a back-to-back, worst team in the league expected goals against per 60-wise. That we saw them concede 3 goals to Buffalo. Wasn't enough because they scored 7. But they're just a horrible defensive team, and now they're on a back-to-back versus Minnesota, a team that's incredibly deep, and that's kind of what makes them tough to stack. I think Eric Stahl makes for an awesome one-off as well, since he's skating on a line with guys that you probably don't really want to stack him with, Jordan Greenway and Charlie Coyle. Although Charlie Coyle's price on DraftKings is really fair. He's like in the 4.4 range, which is super fair. So I think you can go there. But I think Eric Staal for 5.9K is an absolutely awesome play. He's shooting the puck a lot. He is second in the league, or second on the team in iCourse 4 per 60. So I think he's a good option in this range. And then moving on to winger. So if we move on to winger, the first guy I actually want to talk about, so I don't forget, is on Minnesota as well. That's Jason Zucker. He actually, if you saw, he leads the team in iCourse 4 per 60. And what I kind of hesitated from saying during that Eric Staal little segment was that I think I preferred the second line from Minnesota. The problem with Minnesota, obviously, is that they're so deep. They run all three of their lines, or they run all four lines, but they run these top three lines almost the same amount of time on ice. So it's really hard to distinguish one as a prototypical first line. I think for me, I'm going to take the highest rate shooters, and that's Jason Zucker on the second line, Zach Parise on the third line, Pontus Aberg on the third line. I think guys like that are interesting. Like Zucker at 4.6K, I think that's super, super interesting, super fairly priced for a guy. He played 19 minutes last game. That's sort of been the knock on Zucker, is like sometimes he gets down into like the 13-minute range, but his minutes have been consistently like above 17 in competitive games. So I love Jason Zucker here. And then Pontus Aberg is another guy I wanted to talk about. I briefly mentioned him on that third line, but he's 4,300, should play. I guess he's shaping up to be questionable. He should be in the lineup. The knock on him is that Brad Hunt just got acquired by the Minnesota Wild, so he took his role on the first team power play. It used to be Aberg right here. Now it's Brad Hunt. So that's not ideal, but he's still on the second team power play, correlates really well with Zucker, and this is still in and of itself an extremely talented power play. And Minnesota uses them sort of 1A and 1B as opposed to a power play 1 and a power play 2. And then the last guy I wanted to talk about at winger was Patrick Laine. He is 5,900, just way too cheap. I talked about him last time. He didn't score in that game, but this is a guy who's shooting the puck at the same rate as he's always shot the puck. He's skating in the same situation as he's always been. The only problem is it's just not going in. Just getting unlucky with some really bad puck luck, some really bad individual shooting percentage that should regress positively for Laine. And so I think getting exposure to him, like I said, he's 5.9K. We have Winnipeg projected for 3.6 goals, which is one of the highest on the slate. So I'm really interested in getting their top offensive option at such a cheap price. I believe that's all I wanted to talk about at winger. Was there anyone else? I'm trying to avoid talking too much about the high price guys, because I know a lot of you guys tell me that, like, yo, we know the high price guys. Talk to us about the lower price guys. So that's what I'm trying to do. But if we're moving on to defense, I'm starting with the high price guy. Play Brent Burns. He's finally back. We didn't get to play Brent Burns during the All-Star week because we didn't have NHL. We didn't get to play Brent Burns during the 4 games back because San Jose didn't play. But he's back, and we're going to play him. Brent Burns, lock him in. San Jose projected for 3.6 goals as well, tied with Winnipeg for, I think, the second most on the slate, right behind Colorado. Awesome spot for San Jose versus the Arizona team that's just not that good defensively. They're fine. They're nothing bad, but I mean, San Jose is second in the league in expected goals 4 per 60. They're playing at home, and there's no Erik Karlsson in this matchup, so Brent Burns has got the highest floor and the highest ceiling the highest floor of all players, and up there for the highest ceiling, and he's not even close to the highest price. So, big fan of Brent Burns. I think you can do anything in your power to get him into your lineup. And then, let's look. I haven't looked too deep into this low range. There was, let me see if I can find him. Okay. All right, so the one guy in this range that I wanted to talk about is Colin Miller. So Colin Miller on FanDuel is a big value, as always. I don't know why they're not raising his price there right now. He's 3,700 still. So on FanDuel, he's an absolute lock for me until they raise his price to at least like 4,500. Then I'll stop considering him. But for a guy with such a potent role on the first team Vegas power play, and not a horrible matchup versus a Florida team that isn't prone, like they're not a great defensively. They're a team that is more than likely to get into a shootout. Like we saw Nashville score 4 goals against them yesterday. Nashville was projected to score 3.2, and that jumped to 3.4. So not a lot of respect on Florida. And it's sort of the similar boat with Vegas today, with Vegas jumping from 3 to 3.2 goals, receiving 65% of the bets, but a lot of the money is still coming in on Vegas. So I am high on them, and I think it starts for me with Colin Miller as my value defensive option. Moving on to goalie, though. As always, I am tilting goalie still from yesterday with that Carter Hutton stuff. So look at your team. Again, correlate it and hope it works out for you. I hope it works out for you. You can look at the goalie versus, let me see, Toronto. You can go with Garrett Sparks maybe. Pittsburgh shoots the puck a lot. Toronto gives up a fair amount of shots, so I think he's in play. Maybe Reimer as a real GPP option, but I would go safe, probably go Martin Jones, Collar Hellebuck. Whoever correlates with your team, just play that guy in goalie. I'm not going to talk too much about it. I'll save that for members, etc., etc. Lastly, for those of y'all who did make it all the way to the end of this video, I want to give you guys a free prize pick for the day. Again, Prize Picks, an awesome fantasy sports website that you guys can check out. If you haven't already, use code LOCKS and you get a 100% deposit bonus match up to $1,000. All you got to do is roll that over once. And on top of that, you get a free 2-pick entry to win $50. So it's a really, really good deal. And I highly suggest a lot of you check that out because I play it myself. I think it's awesome. So check it out and take full advantage of that. So my free prize pick for the day is going to be Jonathan Marchessault over 4 versus the Panthers. And I'll probably bet that up to 4.5, but not too much to say on it. Jonathan Marchessault, the highest I course you for per 60 on a Vegas team. They already talked about why I like them. Pair him up with Colin Miller if you want on that first team power play, but all you really want from Marchessault is a point here, and he'll get the rest on shots on goal because he shoots the puck that much. So over 4 for Jonathan Marchessault, that's my pick. And the rest I'll have up for members who sign up using code LOCKS and DM us proof. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for checking out this video. I appreciate you guys always finding your way back here. I hope you guys win a ton of money tonight, and I will see you all tomorrow. Peace.